All right, we're ready to roll. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Gibner, who you all know and respect. And my name, well, we hope so. My name's Trisha Daniels. I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. This is my first conference, and they put me on the mic in front of everybody. So when asking for advice, I've heard so many times to picture everyone naked that you've all been naked since you stepped off the plane. So my history, why I'm up here, I started as a kid working in sports leagues, went to college, didn't know what I wanted to do, worked for University of Michigan's intramural sports department. Go Blue! I know I've got some supporters out there. Anyway, still didn't realize that this was a job and something I could do as a career. Left college. Fortunately, they opened up a sports and fitness nonprofit in my hometown. Landed a job there. Turned into a role where I was running adult and youth sports leagues, very, very small scale and programming. So I know the struggle of calling captains, having everybody in my phone Rolodex, season after season, getting them to sign up. So I've done things on a small scale. 2011. Met with Marko Milanovic in Chicago, talked about reffing broomball leagues. Showed up in January, made a name for myself. By March, I was in the office doing things like marketing calls. Had a final place there within a year. I was working on websites, marketing events. About 7 years ago now, I think, we had the American Honey National deal, and I helped manage that, so I have met some of you in the room. But the last 5 years, my focus has come down to corporate events, corporate teams. We've built a database of over 300 companies that we work with. I've done somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 corporate events and hundreds of teams over the years. We do industry, leagues, all this stuff we're about to talk about. So I'm a little bit of an authority, but I want to hear from each and every one of you today so that we can share ideas and I can learn from everyone. So. Happy to be here and excited to work with the Godfather.
I don't know about that. I'm here to just help out Trisha. Obviously, I run Club Sport. Been doing that for 18 years or so. We don't have the corporate teams that they have, just being Chicago versus Tampa, but we do have a little bit of insight. But we, like she said, ask questions throughout this. This is open. This is supposed to be interactive. So share your knowledge with us, with each other, ask some questions, and let's go.
All right, so what we want you to learn today, our primary focus is going to be corporate teams. There's a lot that carries over into events as well, but each and every one of you have an opportunity to do something with teams. Quickly, show of hands, how many of you would consider that you run a corporate program right now within your organization? Okay, and about how many of you want to run a corporate program in your organization?
How many of you guys actively search out corporate paid teams? Okay, who doesn't? Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you guys can learn a little something. Obviously, every community has companies. Most companies have corporate wellness programs. How you get in there, how to manage them, the pitfalls, the advantages, that's what she'd like to express to you.
And before we jump into this one, just a note on culture. Cameron mentioned in his lecture this morning, companies like Google are looking to improve their culture. I get emails all the time, hey, how do we enhance our workplace? How do we retain our employees? More and more people are focused on that word, culture. We have great ways to help them during their workday, and we want to engage them after the workday. We want to make things fun and exciting. Our teams are a great way to do that. Our events are an awesome way to do that. Culture, the word culture is a big selling point for me when I'm talking to those clients. So the good news, you've got leagues, you've probably got corporate teams already. There are a lot of ways to figure that out. Some of them can be time consuming. So another thing today is I've got a lot of suggestions for things that I do. My main focus is that corporate realm. A lot of organizations, I understand, don't have the time or capacity to have someone focus solely on that. So if you can take away 1, 2, 3 things today that you can incorporate to help enhance the corporate side of things, that's the goal. All right, some ways that we identify corporate teams. Names, obvious one. We can go through, those of you who are familiar with league apps, who've seen these pages before, I can go through a league and see that 5 of my 8 teams are corporate. It's obvious their team name is there. Another way to dive just a little bit deeper, looking at the emails, pulling those sheets. 5 of the team names, or 5 of the team members have at Accenture, at LinkedIn. Pretty good trend. I know that they're working for the company, or if the company's not organizing it themselves, those are just a group of friends putting themselves together, and I can get a potential contact from them to keep that up. Surveys. We've done surveys that are singular to our corporate clients, asking questions about what their company is interested in, what kind of budgets they have, things like that, but also just our generic registration. If you have the question, are you a past participant? Did you hear about us from our website? Things like that. Are you with the company? Are you an employee? Are you a corporate team? Throw that onto your list of pull downs if you don't have it already. Payment methods, this is one that Chris has used.
Yeah, I mean, counting definitely any checks that we get. We know who's that coming from, and we might not know it's a company team. You get a, softball team, sweaty balls. You have no idea it's coming from, FedEx sponsor team until you get that, FedEx check. So we note that. We try to log that in, and when possible, reach out. We don't have as robust database or reach out program as Chicago does, but that's one way we identify them. When somebody else, like say accounting is calling in a company credit card, that's one indication for company teams. Who else? Any other unique ways any of you guys identify company teams out there within your organizations? Yeah.
And I'm going to be obnoxious today because I'm a rookie and I don't know your names and faces. If you wouldn't mind standing up, telling me who you are and where you're from, that helps me learn and all the other rookies in the room. So if I'm not asking too much.
I'm Jesse. I'm from Kickball 365. I'm at Georgia. And I was saying just the swag that the players show up wearing. You get a group of them with UPS shirts on, it's probably be a good clue that they probably work for UPS.
Right. So, and I guess the follow-up, and we'll touch on this later, is how do you go from that to bringing that back to the office, that information into your database? Are you logging that, or is there a checkbox in your software program? You guys keep extensive Excel files. So just identifying it, this part of the process is fairly useless unless you're doing something with it.
Some other small ways that I've noticed a team or two here and there. We take team photos the very first night of leagues, and you can identify by the shirts there, things like that. Social media, you've got people, mentioning their company potentially on a picture from the game last night or the after party. So those are 2 other places. Anybody else on ways you've identified?
Believe it or not, team nicknames. So Textron, which y'all know is EasyGo, they had a lot of things they used to have called Bad Boy products. We had a volleyball team named Bad Boy Ballers, and I just Googled the name and up popped the product brand, and I was like, oh, those guys work for EasyGo, and that literally that one thing grew into a corporate relationship. So in the fall, I had 8 teams, 4 kickball teams, a couple volleyball teams, a basketball team that came from that. So look for product names that might be in there as opposed to company name.
Absolutely. So.
Keith with the best sports leagues.
Thank you, Keith. Go Team Red. All right, one of the easiest ways that I identify teams, and I get a dozen of these every week, are just inquiries on our website. If you don't have a form already filled out for corporate, simple fields, name, company. One of my recent ads is the position in the company. I'm trying to figure out exactly who is organizing the teams, and we'll talk about it a little later. It's all over the place, but trying to get a trend on that. Ask them what position they hold. Things like email, phone number, obvious ones. We leave it, ours is pretty open-ended for both events and leagues. Most people just tell me that they're interested in both because they don't know what they're looking for off the bat. Question?
So
Who are you? Where do you come from?
I'm from Buffalo, Tim.
Thank you.
So do you do that just for teams or do you do it for a whole league? Like, or do you run like a specific league for corporate?
all of the above. Anything that encompasses corporate are coming from these forms. Most people will say, they will tell me, I have 6 to 8 teams, I've got 300 people interested in, and then we start that conversation. But a lot of them are super generic when they come in. It's just, I'm in charge of doing something for my company, I heard about your club, or so-and-so told me about it, or plays with you already. Let me know what the opportunities are, or they want league specifics. I want to play softball. Can you tell me more about your softball leagues?
To expand,
No, go ahead.
to expand on your question a little bit, and we'll touch on this later, really, I think it falls in what we're talking about into 3 items. One are just company-sponsored teams, someone, FedEx putting a team in your existing softball league. 2 would be private leagues, so, FedEx is going to put 8 teams into a league that is just for them. And I think the third one would be an industry league that some people do, we haven't, you guys do, like a architects league or a accounting league where everyone in that league has to be a company-sponsored team within that industry. So depending on what's popular around you, obviously any city could do a lawyers league, a service industry night league, or if you're an accounting city or whatever. So those are the 3 areas that we're really touching on when we say company teams. Who here does not have a dedicated website or page to corporate or corporate wellness? Okay.
That's a big takeaway for today.
I would it can be a page. I think you guys have a page, right? And we
It's a
have.
page. We have the contact form. We also have a little bit of breakouts about how to get involved as a team or what kind of events we can put together.
Right,
Mostly we want them filling out this contact form and coming directly to me so I can continue that conversation and give them more information rather than it all accessible on our website. They see it, they click it, they go away. I want that contact and be able to do that follow-up with them.
Right, and if you're able to put a pop-up, that's even better. I think does ours have pop-up contact as soon as you log in?
You can enter your email address to subscribe to the newsletter.
So, and we send out, sort of getting off point, but with that database, we also send out a weekly, I think, sort of like corporate wellness newsletter that we link to, popular articles coming out or why wellness is good for your company. So we also use it as sort of a learning tool for companies.
So outreach, which is something we have a ton of room for growth in. There are a lot of things that we would do if we had the time. Right now, a lot of that's incoming, which is great. But there are a lot of ways to seek out those companies when you have the opportunity.
Who doesn't have time to reach out and find corporate teams? Probably a lot of us, right? Yeah, a lot of stuff what we're talking about is stuff that all of us would love to do. Finding the time for it, Cameron Harold touched on it, we don't have unlimited bandwidth, but if you can just do, 1 or 2 or 3 of these things once in a while, it'll pay off in a team or 2 here and there, and you never know.
In your cities, every market is going to be unique, but most cities have lists that exist about the great companies in your area. Chicago is fortunate to have a lot of those. We've worked with Crane's List. Best places to work, there's 5 different variations or more of people that vote on these things. All of those companies, one tying factor, they have great company culture. And those are the companies I want to reach out to because they have dollars to spend on that culture, and I want them to spend those dollars with me. Other places to look, just general large companies in your market. You may or may not have a lot of them. They might be in the woodworks. Things like, what was it, Chris? You told me hardware stores. Things.
Yeah, it doesn't. Some of this is focusing on large companies. Obviously, it's going to be a little easier when you're focusing on a 1,000, 10,000 person company, and they have money for corporate wellness and putting in company teams. But we also get a lot of, Aces Roofing. Some guy who owns his roofing company and he wants to pay for all his friends to play. We consider that a company team as well, or a company-sponsored team. So little difference there between a company team and a company-sponsored team, but it can be just about any company. They're looking for wellness, name recognition, a lot of reasons.
Other easy ways, you've got a bunch of people working for you. They have friends who have jobs. Lean on them, ask them where their friends are working, especially our young people, our interns, our part-timers. Find out where their people are. They're easy connections to make. Alumni clubs are something we've kind of considered under our corporate bubble too. I've worked with a few over the years. For us, there's a ton of Big Ten schools in Chicago. I've reached out to my personal alumni club. I've reached out to Michigan State's alumni club, even though I don't want to. Might go to Ohio State someday. But our big city in particular has a ton of alumni clubs. Those are people looking to get active and out there. They might be used to playing intramurals in college, so it's great to get those people and capture them after they've left college and come to the big city. So that's a big one that I've tried to reach out to. And then some nonprofits. Again, Chicago's a great market for all of these things because we have a large concentration of them. But look around. Who's already getting together in groups and bring those groups out to the field?
Who's a member of their local Chamber of Commerce? Okay, not less than I would have thought. HR Association. So no, okay, kind of we do, yeah. We get a lot of leads from being a chamber member. They have mixers, they have networking, all these people. And this last item, another unique thing that we're just offered or sort of just jumping on, we are finalizing a partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters to be our main charitable partner for Club Sport. And through that conversation, she had mentioned that she goes in, probably on a weekly or multiple times a week basis to companies to talk about the Big Brother Big Sister program. And she's offered, you're welcome to come on my coattails. I'll introduce you as our, charitable partner. And if you want to pick their brain about corporate wellness, then you can. So that's another new way that we're going to get into companies, hopefully, and hopefully it'll benefit from some company teams, corporate events, or whatever. Keith.
Chris, I have a question about that. We tried to ride the coattails of, and I just blanked out, the big organization that does a lot of recruiting with donations with companies.
One of the softwares that takes it on?
No, everybody's hanging out one, it's not the right one. Something like the Red Cross, I'll think of it after this is over.
Okay.
But when they do all their fundraising inside the companies and they do that, we tried to ride that in to do a field day event, and what we found is the people who were the go-to in the company, they were all excited about raising money for charity, but then when we talked about finding people who like to play sports, not the right person. And so we did that 2 years in a row, and it just failed utterly. And so my question to you guys, if you're writing or you're working with a charity partner who has strong corporate relationships, it's not the same person. And so have y'all discovered that, or have you found
Yes.
how to work
Yep.
on that?
We're going to speak to that in a few slides. The personnel, that's all right. The personnel that you're going to encounter are all over the map. Okay. so
Hey,
next
what do you know?
slide. Perfect. That's all right.
Come on up, Keith.
So everyone that I encounter, do you have a different, before we move on?
Actually, it would be perfect just before this, because I actually want to take a step back. My name's Lauren, I'm from Game On in Buffalo.
Thanks, Lauren.
And I just wanted to double check, when you're reaching out for corporate sponsorships, are you only looking for players and then for cash donations? Or what are some other things that you might be asking a corporation to give to your?
Well, I think that's two separate things we're looking for, at least with us. We are not lumping this in with any sort of corporate sponsorships, if that's what you were asking. Okay, we're just talking about, them putting teams in our leagues, or a lot of times that also translates to doing one-off corporate events. So, some companies, some of us may lump those two together, corporate teams and corporate events. We do not. It's sort of split, but.
And I don't know if you're speaking to sponsorship. One thing we do in some of our contracts, an entitlement for that company, in addition to what they get in marketing and field presence, will be that they get teams in our league. So they might get one a season, things like that. Is that more what you're?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you're asking them for that we should be taking into consideration, or is it just that, one of the
I guess it depends who it is. I mean, obviously, if we're going into a beer company to get them to put teams in our leagues, we're going to ask them, hey, who can we talk to about sponsorships, but that's going to be two wildly different people more than likely.
But good to make that intro.
One idea that we've had.
Maura, right?
Maura with Chris at Tampa Bay Club Sport. One idea that we have is trying to sell the company like we are your corporate wellness solution and selling them on, we do these different facets of things. You can have a weeknight league, you can have a one-off corporate event, you can enter a team into our public field day. So I would say that's the other thing, not just like the weeknight teams, but trying to get them to attend events, Bar Olympics, field day, things like that.
And yeah, like Trish said, we have a sponsorship with Tampa Bay Rays, our professional baseball team, and part of that is we run their in-house softball league. So we've been doing that for 5 or 6 years without a sponsorship, and it was a paid, they would pay us to run their in-house softball league, and you'd be surprised how many people work for a baseball team who cannot swing a bat. And not all of them have baseball backgrounds. But this year, we have a sponsorship. They're sponsoring us. So now that league has fallen under part of that sponsorship. So that was a conversation that we had to have internally. Our sports team was getting those, credit for those leagues we were running for them, and now Ian, our sponsorship director, sold this sponsorship and wrapped that up in it, and we had to make sure that the right dollar amount was assigned to that because it wasn't an insignificant part of the sponsorship. So it's, that's a fun program where they put in 6 or 8 softball teams. We provide the standings, the umps, all the equipment, and it's played on the Tropicana Field in the baseball stadium, which is kind of cool. So, and it's a dome, so no rainouts.
Question over here.
Yes, Christopher Wynn from Sunset Beaches in Atlanta.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
So, I think something that we've had success with, I guess that we call corporate teams or company teams, is actually empower our players. They all go to bars afterwards, so we'll give them like a one-sheeter, things that they can do to try to get sponsorship from the bars. But I'm just wondering, does anybody do something maybe similar to that with corporations, where everybody's out there is employed, like here's what you should tell your HR person, so you can get like a team covers. I mean, it doesn't bring a new team in, but if they're getting their dues covered, that's always going to happen.
That's not something I've done outwardly. If teams are asking me about it, I'll definitely, we sponsor each and every one of our leagues as a bar sponsor afterwards. So we definitely encourage attendance at all of those, and I'll put that in there. But I will let companies know that there's additional sponsorship opportunities to offset their costs by having a bar-specific sponsorship.
And it's surprising how many players, a lot of them it does occur to them, but a lot of them it doesn't. We'll have teams not return for financial reasons, or we're not playing this season because, we don't have the money. And I'm like, hey, has anyone on your team asked their company to, sponsor the team? Or do you know who's someone who has a roofing company who wants to sponsor your team or the bar that you guys go to? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So if they come to us, that's a suggestion we offer them.
Do you give them any tools, though, that they can give to whoever they're pitching to get that funding?
We have a forum online for bar specific, if you want to be sponsored by a bar, because we don't have a really strong bar program like maybe you guys have. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that still live? Okay, sorry. Okay, so we do. We have a form that if you want to be sponsored by your company, you go online, you can type in, your information. You have an option to type in your director of HR or whoever it is, and it will automatically email you and them a copy of some details of, what it entails, how much a typical a team is, and all that information. I can post a link to that.
Yeah, we've done that in our end of season surveys as well. We've asked the question, are you playing with your company at all? And would you share your contact in HR or something of that nature and offer them the opportunity to win gift cards if they share that information with us? Ryan, go ahead.
I'm Ryan from Louisville. We do something similar to what you were saying, but we have a flyer that you can download on our website. We say to help us help you. We print it out, and it's like a pool tab flyer where you cut the little things, and they print it out and post it on their company bulletin board, take a picture of it and send it to us. We give them like $2 off a week or whatever.
That's a cool idea.
I like that.
It's kind of hard to find on our site. You gotta be on the desktop version, so you can get to the part of it we need to switch it up. But I mean, maybe one a year somebody sends it in, but I mean, if we got behind it a little more, I'm sure it could do better. Also, what we do through Facebook, you can target Facebook admins in an ad. You can put in Humana, target Humana employees, UPS, target UPS employees, so we do that a lot too.
Keith, did you have?
I would say, you have to be careful that it doesn't backfire on you. I've had teams that have gone to their companies, you know, after they form the team from company employees, like some guy got excited, a girl, then they go back, the company pays for it for 2 or 3 seasons, then they do budget cuts, and the first thing that goes is you know, employee wellness, and then the team quits because they got used to the company paying for it instead of them. So I'm just always check with the team about, you know, budget cuts and things like that, because all of a sudden you could lose 4 or 5 teams from one company.
Absolutely. We're going to touch a little later on some pitfalls.
I'm just going to shut up.
Something I'm saving.
Keep it, everyone, keep it coming. No, I'm just saying we're going to touch on it. Yes.
I'm stating from Houston Sports Club, something that I've suggested to people is that if that, something like that were to happen, they could fundraise. Kind of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with MS 150, but, you know, you try to get other people to fundraise the money for you, and it's like a base amount, and say they go above and beyond that, maybe they donate the rest to another team that can't afford it, or they donate the rest to a charity.
It's a unique approach, I like that.
So you've identified companies, who to contact. That's one of our biggest questions. So
Right. Like I said, I'm starting to really track our data and our teams and the people that are reaching out to me, spreadsheet, city. But one of the more recent things I added to our questionnaire is what your position is, these people that are reaching out. Some of the most common ones that I have, they're in human resources, and there's all sorts of names that I only hear in one company, something like a company culture coordinator. A lot of people from accounting actually reach out. Executive, but they're how I get the money. Executive admins or assistants are a big one. Office managers and wellness specialists. You'll see everything under the sun of people who are going to put together company teams.
and if you are doing advertising, like you mentioned, I mean, a lot of this stuff you can target on Facebook ads. So, you know, HR directors, whatever, if that's the route that you want to go.
So, some different scenarios that we've encountered to share with. I love working with the large companies who have an established system for this. They'll have a couple tiers in place. They've got a culture committee. They've got a subcommittee that is specific for sports, and beyond that, they might have somebody in charge of their soccer teams, their basketball teams, their football teams. Those are my dream companies because they have everything under wraps and know what they're doing. They're few and far between. What you're going to find more of, if you haven't already, the smaller companies. Somebody may have been tasked to put this together. They don't know anything about sports. They've never heard of our organization. And we're going to exchange 50 emails about how many females I need on a team, what time the games are. It goes back and forth. A lot of them are somewhere in between. So the mix you're going to see, it varies. Has anybody had good, bad experiences with the people you've...
Brian from Casey Crew. We're working on an apartment right now. They have their own, like, their own apartment, dodgeball, and right now they want us to help out with dodgeball and basketball specifically. And I think part of the reason they reach out to us is because we have gyms that are close to their office. And so sometimes proximity is one of the better ways to find it. But they have a huge system, and they're starting with just 2 stores right now. Hopefully we can get it going. They also have this thing in Kansas City called Corporate Challenge, which is not run through us, it's not through local government, but it's like one weekend, all these major companies do a basketball tournament, and year round, they are preparing for that tournament, for this Corporate Challenge. So we try to take some of those teams that care about that, put them in our leagues,
Sure.
and they use it as a warm-up for this Corporate Challenge.
Yeah, that's a great playoff.
We similar. I mean, in our area, we have a one-day event called Corporate Sports Fest. It's 250 company teams, 5,000 people competing in volleyball, dodgeball, whatever. And for about 15 years in a row, we put a booth there, So we exchanged some officiating help in exchange for a booth. And we'd leave with, hundreds of contacts of people who we know work for companies like sports, companies that have wellness dollars, and it was for a long time a great boon for us. So if you have things like that, any sort of corporate one-day events that you can either trade with or be part of or advertise at, that's a good way to get some contacts as well.
Good.
Hey, Trisha, Sal from Lyon.
Hey, Sal.
We've got some large companies and their team, and usually it's me talking to HR, and the HR collects all their players' info and then they send it to me. But when it comes to game time, the person that runs HR, they don't play.
They disappear.
football. Yeah.
Yeah,
The teams are rudderless. What's the game plan?
Do you designate captains?
No.
That would be my first step. Then that puts the responsibility on someone on their end. I don't want all that responsibility from my side because they're not going to show up if I'm not communicating with them. So I would say that's step number one. Make sure you've got a captain in place from their end so that they can take that responsibility.
Yeah, there are. We've got one of the same situations. One of our largest corporate team clients. One person signs up the team from HR. I don't even know where they are in the company, and then gives us a roster. And we really try to either ahead of time or at the fields, have someone step up as captain that we can mark in our system. Other than that, there's really no. It's an excellent question. I don't know if there's any magic pill there. If you have 12 employees and no one wants to step up and manage the team, I think it just falls on your software program or whatever you use to, communicate game times or whatever.
And we'll talk a little bit more about those pitfalls like attendance from corporate teams.
Thanks, Ray. One of the things that we've been doing to help with that problem is we started offering unlimited corporate team sizes. So we just add a surcharge. So we have some volleyball teams that have 30 people on it, but our biggest thing was getting those corporate teams to show up and commit, not worth it.
Right.
So having
We do the
30,
same-
40
we do the same
people
thing.
teams have been great for us.
Yeah, we encourage those large. I have seen beach volleyball 6-man teams with 35 people on the roster, and that's totally fine because then they show up.
I tell our teams to do that. Well, we charge a little bit extra. Well, normally we charge per person, but when we do a corporate team, we charge for, instead of a 10-person roster, we charge for 15. And then we say, if this buys you an unlimited roster size, send it to anybody and everybody that might play for your team. And then we have the rosters.
That's great because we have a set team fee, so we encourage that, and we haven't encountered the financial, but for your type of clubs, that's great.
Clayton?
With that, because they're not paying for the registration, so we get a lot of just no call, no show, and forfeit. Is there any other way that we can kind of eliminate that without, other than limited?
Right. Let's put a pin in that. We've got a couple slides on the pitfalls and stuff. So, and I'm sure we'll have an active, robust discussion on that because that's one of the biggest problems. So, we talked we hit on it a little earlier about what material we get in their hands. You guys had that question. So, obviously there's the website. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do a capabilities deck that I get out to all of our contacts and any new inquiries that come in. We just finished up a new one. It's about a 12-page document. We describe it's very similar to our sponsorship sales deck, where we're telling about our company for a few pages, outline what kind of league opportunities there are from singular teams to industry leagues and events as well. So we outline all those things in one document, but we'll also break that out when people ask me specifically just about sports or just about events. So that's one of our biggest sales tools. Seasonal leagues listings, and there's a couple examples on the next few slides. What I do every single season, in-house, we put together a document. Every morning it's updated with exactly where our capacity is at. That's an internal document. I take that every season and I pull out all of our internal facts and figures. For spring and summer, it was just a 9-page document, an Excel sheet that has sport by sport, day by day, exactly every detail for our leagues, day of the week, level of play, location, pricing, how many weeks in the season. It's basically a catalog that you can sit down and pass around to your office and say, okay, we want to do football, here's my 5 options. We want to do beach volleyball, here's my 150 options. But it makes it simple for those people shopping for leagues. They don't have to click around our website all day to find exactly what they want to do. So I highly recommend, if you don't do anything like that, that you put something together that you can pass on to make it simple for those people.
I think one difference between like normal teams is you get a team or a team captain or even an individual who's looking to play with you. They usually know what they want to do. They usually know what sport they want to play, where they want to play, what day of the week. So going to your website and finding that is not a hard process for them. Often with company teams, they don't know. You know, like, we want to put in a sports team, what do you have? You know, and going through everything on your website might be a little, even though we're in a digital age, you know, might be a lot of back and forth. So the one sheeter with here's everything we offer, you know, in 1 or 9 pages or whatever you have, it makes it a little easier for them when they don't know what they want. Some companies will come to you and say, yes, we want to put in a Monday softball team. But some of them are like, we just want to get our people active and offer something to our people. What do you have?
So beyond that, I'll do it more specifically when they know which sport they want. Just about softball, beach volleyball, whatever it may be, to break that down for them. Some other materials, I've sent along surveys. If you get someone in an HR who's never played sports before, they don't even know where to start the conversation with their employees. I'll put out questions like, what day of the week do you want to play? What sport do you want to play? Just the most basic things in our mind that they don't think of at all. Another thing to put out there to the public is examples of what you've done. Be proud of the work you're doing, the companies you've already worked with, show that off, and hopefully that entices new companies to come along.
Especially in if you have, you know, big industries where you are, or a lot of companies, you know, within an industry, they like seeing what their competitors are doing, and sometimes do the same thing or outdo them. So, you know, if you have a lot of accounting firms and they see Accenture and Ernst & Young and all these companies playing in, you know, Chicago Sport and Social, and like, maybe that's something that we should be offering.
And a couple ways to do that too, quickly. We put it in our deck. I've seen it on multiple websites as well. Show that off in as many places as you can.
Back when we come up front, we have something. Okay.
So, Tim from Game On, also go Team White, drink the clause. How do you guys handle your corporate leagues on social media? So we, Game On runs Wegmans, sports leagues, we run their volleyball and softball leagues, but they have people who are under 18, so they won't let us register through the website because we have beer sponsors on there. Despite them selling beer in their stores, they don't want their employees registering through our website. So what do you guys do to promote to companies? Like, how do you promote yourself to them?
We've not really encountered that. Across the board, our leagues are 21 and up. On occasion, we'll allow the 18 and up, but we certainly can't promote our program to them. So we really stick to the 21 and up.
We don't have necessarily a policy. I try, unless we have permission, I would discourage our social media people from, you know, hyping a company team like out at a league. Like, you know, I would discourage her saying, hey, here's FedEx playing, you know, Tuesday soccer without their permission, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can't promote them at all on social media, but is there any way, I guess my question is there anybody doing anything like any way around that, whether it's on LinkedIn or something that's more professional, that maybe they can, hey, this is our league, we run stuff for companies for their specific leagues. It's not just a team that plays in one of our leagues, we run their whole operation.
Wait, and they're saying to you that you're not allowed to talk about that?
Seriously, yeah, we cannot say that.
I just want to make sure I ask you.
Yeah.
But do you need to?
Literally can't talk about it because there are people who are under 18.
But you've already, so you're running their leagues, but
Yeah,
you,
we run their leagues.
but you don't, do you need to talk about it?
But how do we let other companies know that, even though?
Use-
Oh, okay, I understand. So as a testimonial, you can't use them as a
No,
testimonial.
I guess, yeah, the question, how do you market it?
I would say use the generic industry name. If it's an accounting firm, say accountants.
We run the leagues for the largest grocer in the area or whatever.
Right. Avoid using their name, but describe what type of companies you're working with.
You can also get quotes from the people that, you don't have to mention the name, but at least you have something from somebody.
Yeah, Game On does a great job running our leagues. Sign HR director.
No, I mean, it's something we struggle with all the time. Right. How do we do that? Like, we do a great job for their leagues, and they've done it for years, but we have no way of saying, oh, we do it. Right. I appreciate the comment, because it's a good thing, just, you can just use quotes that are attributed.
Yeah, Cal from Trust. Question kind of similar, you guys always ask for consent before posting a testimonial, and that's an example of getting some feedback, like, what people said, is that how you make you always ask?
When I've done it, I've often written it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll say, hey, do you mind, you know, it's based on, you know, generic feedback. Hey, you guys did a great job. Well, do you mind, can I say, you know, Club Sport, you know, ran our event and it was great. Is that true? Yeah. Do you mind if I use it? Yeah. So everything that's on our website or any flyers is we've gotten consent or we've written it and they've signed off on it.
Anybody else on this topic? Okay. So some examples of the materials, and I can send, if people are interested, I can send these materials so you've got them firsthand. They're a little difficult to see up here. Things like on the left over here, that's the cover of our most recent corporate wellness deck. Like I said, it's a robust document, but it breaks things down too. This is the document that I send out that has all of our league listings. It's very intimidating, and that's one of the first things I say when I send it out, but it has every detail, and they can follow up with all the questions that they might possibly have. When I first started doing this and I had a small list of companies, I would personalize every one of them. I have the time to do this. Again, time, do what you can in the time that you have. The one on the left, like I put Salesforce's logo in the title of what the document is. I would mention these are Salesforce's corporate wellness opportunities, just little details like that as much as you can personalize. I don't think it goes unnoticed. Now I've gotten too big that I can't put 300 different logos in feasibly, so I just keep it generic, but laid out sport by sport, every detail you can imagine. And I do this all in Excel.
I know, I'm saying, you could do that through Salesforce.
We're looking.
Send out all companies with the.
All right, we're not with Salesforce, but maybe we should be. And then there was just another email example 2 weeks ago. Somebody replied to me, replied before I sent that out. It's so helpful every season. You know, I get that feedback, so I know that it's being used and it's a great tool. And then just a few other examples to cut down on those emails. I've gotten as granular as I can for people. I will send out everything, and it's a lot of hand-holding with the corporate teams. In office, they like to call me a corporate concierge sometimes, which I don't necessarily love. But on the left is kind of the survey questions that I'll send out to people, and then to dispel or to cut down on the amount of questions that I'll get back and forth emails. I'll send out simple charts like our gender requirements and how many people are required on the field for each sport. Otherwise, it's a lot of back and forth.
For those of you guys can't read, their survey is what sport are you interested in? What days would you prefer to play? Rank them, rank them. What area of the city would you prefer to play in? Will transportation options impact your ability to play?
And I think we kept that one, it's 10 to 12 simple questions that are the things that are common sense to us.
An excellent one is how athletic are your employees? That may determine if they want to play full field soccer versus cornhole. So.
Do you guys give any recommendations, like, okay, if your company has 100 people, you could probably field 2 teams. If your company has 300 people, you could probably field X amount of teams.
I don't go as big as company size, but they say, I've got 20 people interested in playing basketball. I'll say, you probably don't have enough for 2 teams, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have enough subs, and the 20 people that's committed to playing are probably going to whittle down to 15 by the time game time comes.
Do you task them, like, if they come to you with nothing, like, hey, I want to get my winners, do you say, okay, now go out and gauge interest and get back to you, or would you say, see how many people you have interested, and then we'll go from there?
Right, and they have to do that footwork, unfortunately. I've tried to conjure up ways that we can capture that information, but the onus has to really be on them to be able to put that together and poll their employees. Bad experiences I've had in that realm, I don't know if I want to name a company, but they came to us with a 16 bowling league. We put that together for them. Great, they told me they had 8 people per team, whatever it was. We split up for them, and we're doing this for them only because they're promising us 50 plus teams a year into individual payments where they could pay. Well, week 2 of the season comes and they haven't paid yet, and they come back to me, oh, we've had 2 of our teams drop off. What do we do from here? I'm like, well, we have the lanes, we've provided the service for you. You still owe us this money, but a solution we can look at is cutting a week off of the season and making that right in different ways. But the surveys that they send out from their end aren't always reliable either, is the point that I'm making. So making sure that they are overestimating the people that they need is very necessary to make sure that those teams are there when it comes to game time.
I helped the Tampa Bay Rays with their internal survey, and it was one: can you play, or do you want to play? And then they also rank your baseball or softball ability 1 to 5. 1, I've never played. 5, I was a ex-major league player, and they split their teams out based on that. So every team had the best opportunity for parity throughout their 8-team league. So that sort of gets this, segues into the logistics, private leagues versus public ones. How many of you guys run private leagues for any companies where every team in that league is from that one company? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, okay. Maybe a little more than I thought. We just do the one, so.
We do. I would have to go and count. There are a lot of them, but we do.
And then probably more often is when companies are putting in, 1 or 2 teams in your existing leagues. So that's just based on the number of people they have interested.
It's hard to come to that consensus of everybody wants to play softball, everybody wants to play basketball. So we can field a softball and a basketball team this season. Mondays work for this half of the office, Thursdays work for the other half. So based on those abilities, it's easy to pick and choose. Right, and sometimes it's based on what they are looking for. I mean, some companies want a private league because they don't want their players playing against other people. It's whether it's for the facility or liability reasons or whatever it is, they'd like to just keep it all under the same roof and no outsiders. The team building is a big part of that too. When you've got the private team, you can promote that camaraderie and building your team outside of the office too.
Then we also touched on industry-specific leagues. Any of you guys run industry-specific leagues? 2, 3, 4. Okay. What kind of industries?
Service industry,
Okay.
We've got a couple architecture leagues and an advertising league, and we're working on the health, like the hospital stuff.
Healthcare. Okay.
Yeah, we do a hotel league, and then we also do an engineering contractors league.
Cool. It's up my alley.
What sports do you do?
This is all softball, that's our forte.
Softball there. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Baseball.
Does anyone do a night shift league?
We've been asked for it. We haven't done it. Does someone do that successfully?
We did. I've heard of it. We did some games. The best time to do for a night shift was at 7 a.m. right when they get off shift, because it's kind of like most people get off work at 5. You go play sports. So 7 a.m. The biggest challenge you're going to have is finding officials that can go out and be there at 7 a.m. So, but we did that. It worked very well, and then the company went through a rough patch, and so they stopped paying for it. So we discontinued it. But that's it's good. It's just you got to have the right people in place to
We found that pickup leagues in the mornings are a little bit easier to get some of those night shift people to start it at ACC later this year, and you don't have to officiate those.
What about, who is it, like the restaurant industry?
We do in all of our volleyball leagues.
Do you do it at night or do you do it like a daytime?
Sundays or Mondays is generally their weekend. We find if we kind of carve out that time and market it as that league, we'll fill that league with mostly those people. You'll get normal people that's what they prefer anyway, but.
Do you have that group coming to you, or you've just outwardly advertised that as an industry league?
Yeah, oftentimes that's the title of the league.
The Sin League.
But you figure 15 to 20% of your players anyway are already in the industry, so they'll gravitate that way on their own.
Are those, I'm curious, are those teams coming in or individuals?
Yeah, oftentimes.
Both? Okay.
We have bars that put in their own teams, restaurants, breweries, anything that,
Generally on those, like for those, we run a fours volleyball
because there's so much turnover a lot of times in the industry that you can't get a giant softball team together or something like that. So keep them small, whatever you're gonna do. But if you start like mid to late afternoon, they're usually done with the church and the brunch crowd, at least, and so that's when they can kind of start. So
We have a lot of restaurants that are closed on Mondays, and so we do our league Monday night, and we do go later because these guys are used to staying up later, so we'll run an 11 o'clock game. Yeah, because they'll come out and play.
Well, good idea if you own a bar with volleyball courts.
On the industry side, we in Chicago, we do a few of them, most of the ones that people mentioned. It's something that I'm trying to gain more data for. Again, the spreadsheet I keep of all of the teams, a column that I added within the last year or two is to keep track of everybody's industry, to watch those trends. We haven't been able to go as far as reaching out and saying, hey, you guys are in the tech industry. Do you want to fill this space we've got and play softball, kickball, whatever it may be? But we're getting there as we grow our list and we're keeping track of it. That's something that I hope to be able to do in the future. So just tracking where those teams are coming from.
Does anybody run church leagues? That hadn't really been mentioned. I just wanted to ask. I'm in the deep south, man. That's all we got.
A lot of we don't do any church leagues, but surprisingly, we get a lot of basketball teams that are sponsored by churches.
We rent some of those gyms.
Yeah, we rent them and then we get some putting it in, so.
Okay, on to one that could be lengthy, finances. There are a lot of different scenarios that I encounter, everything from companies paying the full amount to splitting that up between players and teams, which have their upsides and their downfalls. But to start pricing corporate teams, we in Chicago, we tend to keep things the same price as we do our normal leagues. Why do we do that? We're not doing anything above and beyond for most corporate teams that we do for an average team. So there's no reason for us to raise that price. Also, we have competitors in the market, so if we're raising the price for an average team, they've got other options that they can go to.
Who here who does corporate teams? Does anyone have a standard practice of it's discounted? Okay. Does anyone as a standard practice charge more for company teams?
We do it in certain scenarios. We will upcharge when we're doing additional work. The company I spoke about that we did individual payments for, we absolutely tacked on more for that because we were doing more for them.
I guess the question for both people who raised their hands, why would you discount them and why do you charge them more and what are your reasons for it?
We discount it if you do more than one team. So if you're putting in your second team, you get $25 off. On your third team, you get $50, and every team after your third, you get $50.
Can you get that if it's not a company sponsored team? Like if, say, I just know a lot of soccer guys.
Well, it's like, so we do it in the same season too, so it's not like you have to put those teams in the same league.
Oh, okay.
You can't say I'm gonna do every season. So if you have if you're coming into my league with 3 teams, you're gonna have 3 teams in my league. Yeah, I'll give you 25 off second and 50 off the third.
Okay.
We charge more because, and we frame it around, they're buying a bigger roster size. So, and then we're also invoicing the company, so their players have to, we actually add a $50 fee for that invoice. And then we charge them, if it's a 10-person team, we charge them for 15 players. If it's a 7-person roster for basketball, we charge them for 10.
So if you guys have a large roster, you guys have run issues with everyone signing a waiver if someone just shows up randomly or still,
Well, so we have, in our system, I can turn the fees off for the team so they're not charged, but then we say, send this link to anybody in the company that might play, just get them to sign a waiver, and then it covers it. That's why the roster size is like 30 people. And you have a whole team.
Right.
So another thing you're going to deal with finances is custom payment options. Obviously, I assume all of us for normal teams and individuals, we want the money up front. We need credit cards. For companies, a lot of them are going to be used to invoicing. Net 30, net 60. Problem is net 60 sometimes, depending on the league length, the league might be over, which causes problems. I knew we had a comment earlier. And we had a cable company put in a soccer team for I think every season religiously 15 years. Check would always come during playoffs for 15 years. One season, they're entering playoffs, check's not in. I'm like, hey, where's check? Like, oh, the company decided that they cut the program, they're not paying it. So, like, well, that's good to know. How about if everyone forks over $70 and we'll put you in the playoffs? No, no one wants to pay. I mean, they've played for free for 15 years, and it fried me. But those are risks that you're going to take if you're going to accept, their payment terms, or you can not.
Chris?
Just can you, maybe you're gonna talk about this, but maybe you speak to your pricing approach to one-day events.
I think there's actually another seminar completely on that.
But I know that you're talking about like a one-day, like kind of a field day or something for corporate, right?
Right, but there is a whole seminar that she's addressing for pricing corporate events, and we could talk an hour and a half on that. Tomorrow at 10:30? So, well, there's that one, but there's also pricing corporate events. They're all similar.
One-day tournaments as corporate events.
That's a huge question, and that's all over the board. We do single day sporting tournaments for companies. We do a lot of that, and we price that pretty much the same as we would any other, open softball tournament or open basketball tournament. Hard Rock, actually the casino side, not the hotel side, in Tampa does about, 5-6 tournaments a year with us, where they, 8 teams a tournament, basketball, softball, kickball, and we price those the same as we would any other tournament that we have any other weekend. You had a couple questions. Steve?
Hey guys, Steve with South Florida Club Sport. Maybe a two-part question here. Have you guys or anybody else in the room run into an invoicing where a company has got their insurance company to actually pay for all of their wellness programs? So I have, who is it? Miami-Dade College wants to put teams together now and start creating a wellness program with us for the leagues, but Aetna is going to pay for it. So they need an invoice, for whatever teams are going to do. Has anybody run into that scenario? And then the second part, has anybody gone after Aetna to try to get more company teams through them? If they're going to pay for it, maybe there's other companies around.
We have in a roundabout way, not the insurance company paying for the teams, but we have a number of companies who have agreements with their healthcare providers, where if an employee can prove that they were active, they will get, I don't know if it's reimbursed for the league with cash or a healthcare credit. I don't know, but we get a lot of players asking for proof of participation, and they'll get money from their employee health insurance program.
That's something that I know that Eric with Underdog Sports Leagues, we ran into a little bit, it kind of grew organically, where we had Moda Health, who was in Portland with us, and they actually just had their own teams that they paid for, and then they did start to advertise that basically as one of the benefits to the companies they were working with. It fell apart. People that were working there no longer work there, so it's all individual relationships at that point, unfortunately. So that's definitely something that I would like to explore a little bit more myself as well.
Yeah, and it's a segue. It's something to at least tell an HR person that's looking to put in teams. I mean, they need to talk to their healthcare provider, because they may get breaks if they can prove that their employee base is active.
I typically use as like a last resort. If you've shown them like the whole deck like Tricia has, you give them all the options. This company just can't seem to get a whole team together, but the corporate wellness person is still in charge of like showing some results to the company. I say, let your individual players play in our leagues. They can sign up on free agent teams and reimburse, and that way you actually know that they're playing the sport they want to play on the night they want to play it. It doesn't bring in as much revenue as having a sponsor, but at least you don't completely lose it, because like Tricia was saying, they get frustrated and they're just like, oh, forget it, we're not going to do anything.
And it gives the opportunity to grow later. And I put that on the sheet that I sent out, as well as all of our individual pricing for the leagues where we offer that. We haven't had many people take us up on it, but the option is there.
I was just going to provide as Tyler from FXA Sports. I'm actually married to an HR professional who manages Pittsburgh, a very large credit card issuer. That thing with your rate with Aetna is actually a new burden that a lot of the not just billing bonus dollars, they're actually getting like a bucket of money now that they can spend to do things like flu shot clinics, wellness clinics, things like that. And the idea of us being able to tie into that, we may have to do some legwork around like helping sell that to the insurance company, but it's definitely something that's we're gonna start to see more and more. It's a new, I mean, they've only seen the last 12, 18 months really, and companies honestly don't know how to use that one.
Yeah, one of the.
Sounds like something we need to tap into pretty quickly here.
Possibly. I mean, you're talking to the wrong person to answer that question, but it's a question that we should be asking more and more to companies.
Yeah, one of the companies that I'm working with.
Speak up.
One of the companies I'm actually working with has, when they do their, I guess I'm not an HR professional, so I guess every year they have to re-up their contracts with the insurance companies. They actually put a line item in and negotiate. There's $10,000, and every year they keep adding 5% or whatever, is what they're telling me, to pay for that specific program. So they're actively trying to do that. So if insurance companies are doing that, or companies are doing that, maybe there's a client relationship person or something like that, and Cigna that we can talk to get intros to those other companies. If that's
Cool. One more and we'll move on. We've got about 20 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to say the same thing. We definitely, as an industry, I know it's kind of segueing here, but as an industry, I'm getting the same thing where I got to fill out paperwork stating that, this guy's playing in our league, like these days, so that they can get kickbacks from the insurance company. Because us as an industry, you could definitely think that. Otherwise, something like Soul Cycle or Fitbit or something.
Right. Yeah, and as we sort of tackle that, this new side of it, we need to learn from each other, and whether it's, a simple, none of us probably have it, a form that they can go online to our website, for proof of playing, that they fills check boxes that find out what the insurance company needs to see, and we can provide that automatically. Things like that are going to be tools that are going to help us grow in that area. So I'm going to switch these two bullet points because the second one we might talk about, but
Yeah,
if you're doing
we've got
company
that in
teams,
challenge.
what's that?
We've got that in challenge. We've kind of got it two
Yeah.
places. It's a big deal.
Be ready to send invoices, receipts, W-9s. It helps even if you have a clickable W-9 on your website. Credit card authorization forms. Some of them need ACH payments, direct payments. Just educate yourself on all of that because they're going to be asking for a lot of that. So
The more I send that up front when we're having that conversation, the less back and forth emails we have. So I just supply them with everything they could possibly need rather than waiting for them to ask for it.
or come up with policies whether you want to take it. I hate taking direct deposits or ACH payments. They're a pain to get confirmation of. One or two here and there, but if everyone was doing it, it doesn't jive well with our software system as far as confirming all
For
that.
us, sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint who made that payment.
Yeah, it comes in as a code, and so whether you're going to even allow it or not, make sure you have those conversations internally before you start getting the questions from the companies. Something that we'll talk about a little bit as far as pitfalls goes, but definitely is the forfeits. I mean, these employees are playing for free. They don't have skin in the game. If I had my way, which I usually don't get my way, companies wouldn't be paying 100% of these team fees. I would love to see employees, have some skin in the game, $5, $10. It costs them something to play because, they're invested in it. Yes.
First reaction, the company pays for it, but the players are responsible for their team jersey, so the company orders a jersey, players have to pay for their jersey, so it's something, $10, $15 that they're responsible for, and that we don't have problems with people dropping out for that reason because we've made sure that the companies understand it. If you want people to show up and represent you well, they need to understand that they're representing the company and put that skin in the game, and that fixes it. We just don't.
Okay, that's a good idea. We're going to blow through a couple of these, and then let's talk about some of those challenges because I want to see what you guys have, any solutions. So now what? You guys have, company teams, corporate leagues, private leagues, whatever you want to call them. What to expect?
I spend a lot of my time doing everything I possibly can for these teams. The answer is yes. What's the question? Always within reason, but I will go out of my way to do things that I would not do for normal league teams. an extra shirt here or there, if you're signing up multiple teams throughout the year. Schedule requests, we will do these for regular teams, but I try to put it out there in case there's a meeting on the books or things that they need to work around. Another way to hopefully avoid forfeits, but get them on the schedule they need so they can show up at the games. We will do shirts, especially for, in particular, our industry leagues or our private team leagues. We will do shirts with their company logo on them. They don't cost us much more to make. And we do lose our sport and social presence on them, but it gives them an added value to what they're buying.
But definitely keep in mind that, news travels. So if you're doing something for, FedEx company team in their first season, Joe who's put in, teams in your league for 15 years, he's gonna want the same stuff. So, just be careful, in my opinion, how well you treat them versus your other paying customers, because I don't know what everyone's percentage as, but I would say, company-sponsored teams is probably less than 10% of our total teams, and I don't want to,
Yeah, for sure. Challenges. This one could go on for a while. Attendance and forfeits. By far the biggest one that we encounter. It's the financial. Nobody's paying for it. So what incentive do I have to show up, or I don't lose anything by not?
Yeah, you've got two, in my opinion, two situations. One, the team just stops, there's no skin in the game, they aren't having a good time, maybe they're losing, they stop showing up. The other thing is, if they all work for the same company or in the same job, something that affects the company is gonna affect the entire team. If I have a meeting after work, I might miss my soccer game, but if the company has a meeting, we have a lot of forfeits from company teams who, hey, we have to all stay late tonight, we have a meeting. We're all flying out tomorrow morning, we can't play tonight. So, just the communications, asking your company teams, is there anything we should know about your schedule? Is there, a conference coming up? Are you going to Cancun, anytime soon on a cool company retreat?
Do you guys do anything different for corporate teams, for like player bonds or team bonds or anything like that, finding teams or issues like that, compared to your regular teams?
We do the same thing. Our policy across the board is 2 forfeits and you're done for the season. So we follow the same structure for corporate teams.
We have that same policy, but we will bend the rules for company teams if it's, if we know about it ahead of time, or if they've, a situation, a meeting isn't, a no-call, no-show forfeit. So we don't have anything besides that. We don't do bonds. We could have a whole 2 hours on what to do for forfeits and, with the opponents and all that. Love to solve that problem eventually. Christian?
I was just gonna say, we stole the idea from Underdog, but we do a forfeit.
I think something like that would work. You probably would work better with company teams because you have someone that's responsible.
The big thing too, when it happens.
He said, 'cause I.
30. They have a $30 forfeit fee that somebody has to pay before, I guess, something happens. They play again.
Well, yes, they can, so they can't have a fee on their books for the next game, so, someone has to pay it, so.
I could envision that being, a trouble with a company. I mean, do you have to invoice that? Does it have to go through approval? Getting that, any sort of forfeit fee, might be hard for a company. So, I mean, the forfeits are a problem. Just communication, I guess. Adding large rosters is a solution. Asking them ahead of time if there's any, scheduling issues.
And communicating with all of the people that you've worked with, not necessarily the captain, but that HR person or whoever is signing up and signing the checks too. The more people I let know in the company that that's happening, they may not be aware of what's happening on the field each week, but when they hear, oh, that team that your company paid for isn't actually showing up, they're likely to take action to make sure that they're using those dollars they're spending.
Are we talking about complete no-shows or like they have 8 people there?
I'm referring to like complete no-shows, where we can't play the game. Normally, it's one way or another with company teams with us. Either the team is not showing, or they have full roster. I mean, they could be short, but usually when we've been running into problems is when the team either stops showing up because no one's having a good time, or when there's some scheduling issues. So. Another challenge that we've had is player behavior and accountability. Again, if they're not paying, you know, they may think that they can act, you know, however they want to act. Maybe they haven't been communicated our expectations because, you know, one person has signed up the team and they're unaware of what they're getting into. Maybe the HR director has signed them up for a fun co-ed softball league, and this guy's used to be, you know, he thinks the company's putting in a, you know, men's A softball team, and they're just, you know, acting inappropriately. We've also had situations where player behavior has affected their job. We've had, you know, more than one player fired from their full-time job for what they've done on the field, whether they've been ejected from a game, whether we've had to call their captain, who may be their boss, and say, hey, you know, last night, you know, Jim was, you know, berating our umpire. Can you put a stop to it? And that reflects poorly on the company, and it has affected their full-time position.
And you would think that these teams would help hold themselves to a higher standard because they're representing their company, but sometimes they forget that in the heat of the moment. So
We've dealt with entitlement, you know, like, you know, we should get the world, you know, we should be winning, we should get the calls, we should get our shirt color, we should get this, we should get that because we're a company team. You know, our company paid so much money to be in this league. Well, everyone in the league is paying, you know, similar amounts of money. You know, it harkens back to why we make it the same price across the board. So we don't we don't try to instill any sort of an entitlement if it's a higher price.
we already touched on this a bit, but overcommittal to teams. When you do that survey, you get 100 people who say they want to play, and especially if they're not paying anything, when it comes to game time, they're not putting in the teams that they thought they could. So I'm not quite sure the way to combat that other than to, force payments or make players commit in some additional way, but that is something we've seen a lot of.
New companies putting in company teams, ask if they have any, what the legal requirements in-house for them are, because we've had companies where, yeah, they sign our roster, but, Jim can't play because he didn't walk up 2 floors to the HR office and sign their waiver or whatever they have before the first game. So, there's definitely that. I know the Rays League that we do, they have to sign an internal waiver for each league that they do, that we don't know if they've signed or not, and it's not our responsibility, and we let them know that that's not our responsibility. Sometimes they try to put that on us, like, oh, Tricia didn't sign the, HR waiver. That's not, if you want to tell her if she can't play, that's fine, but, that's not on us.
We've had this scenario in more events than leagues, but when we're doing tournaments for corporate events, and I will make sure that all of those waivers are at the field, ours, theirs, anyone else's who's needed there. So asking that question of the company is a good thing to do too.
Any other challenges not listed here that you guys have seen with company teams? Keith?
I had a question with regards to legal. We had a situation where so for recruiting, we did a mini tournament for a company. So they got 4 teams together, and so a lot of the employees came out to watch, and they did cookout and stuff like that. So it kind of got the momentum excited about playing as a corporate league. And then they had a young lady file a workers' comp claim. And basically, one claim killed the thing, and she tripped, I believe. And because it was just a trip, she got up and kept playing. My umpire didn't fill out an injury report, so we had nothing on that. They had all filled out our waivers, so there was nothing legally, but just FYI, if the company is paying for it legally, there's a recourse. My question is, how, going into that, how do you impress upon the company that this is a potential possibility so they don't just squash it when the first issue comes up?
Do you? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to scare them off. My initial comment would be, make sure they know ahead of time that, workers' comp claims could apply if, I don't know if it's true or not or what the answer is. I'm not, an expert, but, possible workers' comp claims could come up if they're competing on a corporate team. But do I want to open that can of worms or have them go to their legal department, who's probably going to say, well, if that's the case, then no, don't put in the team.
And we've seen that in one of our larger corporate events that we used to run. We would do a field day, a picnic, a softball tournament, and a soccer tournament for this company, and they started to have a few injuries. The teams got really intense. So after 4 years of running this event, they decided to get everybody season passes to Six Flags, which is much safer.
We had a long-running flag football tournament for a local tech company, years and years and years, until a guy had a 3-place compound fracture of his leg, and it was the very last event we did for him. So,
Okay, thanks.
yes.
Just some of the situations we've had is they're, again, don't have the skin in the game, but towards the end of the season, some of those guys that aren't quite so good don't tend to show up anymore, and all of a sudden they've got some guys that maybe are ex-minor leaguers that show up, especially for playoffs, that happen to work for the company now. And then the entitlement that goes along with that. Trying to explain to the company that we have to have a roster set, but then the people that are actually playing don't understand that.
Yeah, that sits to our general league rules for us. We require everybody on the roster. You can change out your players in the regular season. When it comes to playoffs, you have to be on that roster. So we don't get concerned about that until playoffs, and we wouldn't allow them to play if there was a challenge and they weren't on the roster.
We've got less than 10 minutes, so time's flown by, but just go above and beyond expectations with company teams, whether it's sending photos, a special presence at your leagues. Try to get out there if you have staff or you or whoever to meet the contacts if they're playing. A lot of times they're not playing, the people who are out there, but sometimes they are. Keep an eye on the team's performance. Trisha, I think, sends, champion photos if they win a league.
Yep, we definitely do.
To them. We're on sort of the other side of the coin. We sort of try to identify if a company team's getting killed halfway through the season and sort of reach out, hey, maybe softball isn't for you. Do you like kickball? Do you like cornhole? Bowling, maybe? And so that might, I think it's easier to get a team back if they've won than if they've lost every game and they're disillusioned. So we talked about engaging shout-outs in social media if you're allowed, if you think it's a good idea.
And to follow their pages, and if they're posting things, to repost that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you talk about, being proactive. You can definitely be reactive. And if, they're posting something with your, shirts on or in your league, that's great for you, and definitely repost it. Because if they posted it, then they shouldn't have a problem if you're reposting, and it proves that, local companies that maybe people respect are in your leagues.
And some things I do at events, for example, once I've run events year after year and I've got all of the supplies that go into a particular event, I might take some money out of my budget that I previously spent for equipment and add a couple special details to the event. They notice it, a couple things I did this year. One of our events, we added some marquee letters. The group had previously done a step and repeat. They had gotten rid of that, I knew it, so it gave them a photo opportunity. Took $150 out of my budget, they noticed it, thanked me profusely for the new details. Jazzing up some of the events. We do a lot of corporate sports tournaments, so they're not the prettiest events in the world. They're a field and some tents possibly. Adding a little bit of flair, a little bit of decoration, it's counterintuitive to running sports, but it goes a long way for them to appreciate and throw a little bit of company color all over.
I'm going to blow through these a little quick. Follow-up's critical. Follow-up at the end of the season. Segue this into events. If you're not doing corporate events, but you have a lot of corporate teams, you should start thinking about doing corporate events. A lot of these people, if they bail out of a season-long commitment, they might be wanting to do one-day tournaments or field days or whatever it is that you can also run for them. Sending videos, holiday cards, thank yous. Be proactive for the next season. Reach out. Are you going to play again? Don't make this a one-off. Sending out a list of upcoming leagues, like her examples of what's starting when. We offer to sign them up for them. Don't go through the process. Just tell me you want to play, and I'll put your team back in and send you an invoice, and you're good to go. Just one phone call and we're done. Know when their budgets are in play. A lot of these people are earmarking dollars at certain times of the year, maybe for the whole next year. So get in those line items. Get in there. If you need to ask the questions, how much do you need a dollar amount to put in your budget for all of 2020? Let me know, and I'll tell you what that is so you can get that in there. And people move on. Always have a secondary contact. If you have a team that's always with you, don't just have one person you're always calling. Have someone maybe as a backup in case that person moves on.
To make sure that goes to rosters is another challenge that we have. The corporate contact will sign up, but they don't get everybody else on the roster. we want to make sure that we've got that full roster, so we've got 2, 3, 4 people to email if we don't see that team coming back.
I should put some of these slides at the beginning, but just to let you know sort of what we're doing. Our biggest corporate team client is United Medical Academy. It's a medical school. They did 81 teams last year with us in 5 sports plus a couple events, and it was over $60,000 in team revenue, and that's just pure teams. So. Roster player approval as people move on or aren't in the company anymore, they should be letting us know and they shouldn't be playing. That's a difficult process. And then we've also had some player behavior repercussions. This is one of the companies who they've let people go for on-field actions. So we also do a private league every fall for the Pinnell School Board. 16 teams. We do discount this one because they lump sum pay for 16 teams. And it's a private league. This one has some attendance issues, and one thing that we do, it's good for us because it's a kickball league. Normally our kickball league starts at, goes 7 to 10 on the fields they use, but these guys want to play early, so we're able to do 5 and 6 o'clock games and then roll right into our normal leagues on the same field.
Who are in that team?
Teachers.
All teachers?
It's all teachers. And staff, people who work at the school. So. Teachers, staff, administration, whatever it is, they send out a company-wide, school-wide email. If you want to play, it's a private league on our website. You can only get there through a link, but it's free to sign up. And then they form teams, and we're good to go.
A couple other examples. Accenture is one group that we've been working with for years and years. They're great clients. They're one of those companies that have representatives for each sport. So we do a lot of private leagues for them, as well as signing up individual teams that are a little more skilled, that want to play at a more competitive level in other. Their financial arrangement is nice. They pay 50% from the players and 50% from the teams, so we don't really have a lot of attendance issues with them. We love that arrangement, and they're really good about making the payments. The challenges that we do have, we know these leagues are going to happen, but typically they don't have their numbers together for me until the Monday before the league starts on Saturday. So that's a challenge to make sure we have the appropriate amount of space for them, but we know after working with them for years and years that it's coming. And then I wanted to throw in just a couple event examples here. I do about 16 to 20 corporate events a year. Boca Group is a great restaurant group we've been working with since 2014. We started just doing a softball tournament for the restaurants. That started at 8 teams. As they've grown their restaurants, we've grown that tournament. Each year I'm talking to them about what else we can do. So we added a beach volleyball tournament back in 2015 as well, and we were doing the 2 events. And my discussion for this year is already, how do we grow that? Are we going to do a company picnic this year? Are we going to add the field day? As they're a growing company, we know they've got more money to spend. Pitfalls with them, they'll sign up for the 14-team softball tournament. They'll show up and have 9 teams, maybe 10. I experience that a lot in my events, but in sports in particular, that I'm ready with a Sharpie and stickers to go over what I've already produced. Keith?
With the picnics, do y'all have an in-house catering, or do you just have relationships to deal with food and stuff like that?
It depends who the client is. For the restaurant groups, for example, I'm going to go straight to them.
Right.
I'll use things like Panera Catering. If I'm a big fan at my corporate events because they're on a beach at a softball field, I want a boxed lunch that's not going to sit out and get dirty and get sand in it. So a little bit all over the map, but there are some good companies. Like we have one that brings carts to events. It brings a nacho cart, pretzels, hot dogs, get that sports day feel. So
is that something you'll do a la carte? Like, do you have a catalog of groups you work with, or is that something you do each time you're negotiating?
I try to keep my relationships where I have had previous success. I don't want to reach out too far and have somebody that falls through.
Right.
I want a strong relationship, and I'll continue to use those people if they've been good to me, as long as it fits in what my client is looking for as well.
It is 2:30, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. Let's give it up for Tricia on her first SSIA seminar.